Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Go check out my website if you want life coaching and mentoring. Let's talk about PTSD. I've had PTSD for quite a long time and I've learned how to conquer it. I did have help. I went to a traditional type of therapy for about 6 years. When I first was diagnosed with PTSD, I went to 3 different psychiatrists and I was diagnosed with having some of the most severe forms of PTSD, all of the symptoms, by three different psychiatrists. One of them was a military psychiatrist, and she had talked about how the stuff that I was telling her was just as bad or worse than any of the Vietnam vets, and this was quite a long time ago, that any of the Vietnam vets that she had talked to had seen, that my stories were just as bad. And that's the weird thing, is I didn't develop PTSD from going overseas. I developed PTSD from America, right here at home, the war on drugs. I've seen more than 20 people murdered right in front of me. That's a lot of people. You ever seen someone murdered? I've seen more than 20 people. People that I know, that dropped to the ground with exploded chests screaming, "Help me, Sky, help me, help me." I remember watching one of my friends crawl on the ground, leaving a blood stain like a slug just along the ground. He's climbing up this driveway from an underground parking lot, and he just got shot in an argument. He's crawling towards me, "Sky, Sky, help, help, help." Fucking cops are on the way. I stood there just not even knowing what to do. I wanted to help him, but I didn't want to get busted. I'll never forget just standing there, confused. I have so many stories like this. I've seen so many people just drop. I've been right next to motherfuckers, and bullets didn't hit me, they hit them. I can't tell you how many drive-bys I've been in, because I don't remember. You see them on TV. I've been through them over and over and over again. And this type of stuff used to torture me. There's different types of PTSD, and there's sometimes people will completely block out everything that happened to them, and they go around like this happy idiot. Meanwhile, they have this horrible, horrible trauma that had happened to them, and they just ignore it. And maybe there's a trigger, maybe there's a line in a song, maybe it's something that someone does, a quick movement, who knows, a loud bang, who knows what it is, and that triggers them and they break down. Nobody has any idea what's even going on. The person themselves might not even know. That's rather rare. My personal experience was different. My personal experience was the triggers that traumatized me, the traumas that haunted me, were always present. I thought about the murders every single day, all the time. In fact, it was all I could think about, all I could dream about. I was obsessed with it for years and years and years. From the second I wake up to the second I go to sleep, and while I'm asleep, I'm still in the war. I'm still thinking about murder. I leave the house every day with a weapon on me, loaded and ready to go, and every single day I open the door and look down the block, ready to blast anybody who might be there, just in case there's enemies. I'm looking for cops, and I'm looking for the wrong color bandanas, and I don't even live in that area anymore. I moved 3,000 miles away to get away from that shit, and I still have these problems. The only way I was able to get over all of this was to go directly into what haunted me. You see, there's this notion put out by psychiatrists, mainly people who are really smart but have never actually had any trauma happen to them. Most psychiatrists that counsel you for your PTSD have never had PTSD. They know about it because they read about it. Now, I'm not saying that somebody who read about it can't know about it, but it is helpful if somebody has been through something really fucked up to understand how hard it is to get over it. And there's this notion that someone with PTSD and with heavy triggers is too toxic, is too volatile for them to go relive those triggers. And the type of therapy that's designed typically with PTSD patients is beating around the bush. There's a lot of different theories that you can attack symptoms, you can address other symptoms, maybe personality symptoms, emotional symptoms, other things other than the trauma, and that will strengthen you. But you never actually go to the trauma. I strongly believe that if you want this to end, you have to go back to the beginning. You have to go back to where it all happened. And you have to smooth it out. You have to make sense of it. Part of the trauma that I experienced, I had to philosophize on it. I had to understand it and make sense of it. And once you've made sense of it, you've diagnosed the problem. And once you diagnose the problem, then you can come up with ways to heal it. And there's many ways to heal a problem. But I realized that part of my problem was a misunderstanding of how the world was supposed to work. I've seen so much death and blood, and it fucked me up. I thought I could be harder. I thought I could be tougher. I thought I could be more like Rambo or Clint Eastwood or the action heroes that I watched as a kid and be more like them and go through murder after murder after murder, death after death after death. People laying on the ground dead and just not even give a fuck. I'm so hard and so tough. It didn't work out that way. It destroyed me. And the only way I was able to survive not killing myself, not committing suicide, was to be able to safely, with a guide, with someone to help me with that journey, and that's what a therapist is good for. The therapist I picked had actually went through his own journey. He used to be a heroin addict, he used to be a criminal, he had joined a gang, I'm not going to say which gang, but he had been in that world. So he knew exactly what I was going through, better than me probably. And we went directly into those scenarios. I went through about 2 murders a year for 12 years, so there's more than 20 there. I lost count. It was kind of sad when I realized one day that I didn't even remember some of the people, some friends of mine. I didn't remember that they were murdered. It's weird when you can't even remember if someone's alive or dead. You saw them, got shot, and you don't even remember it anymore. And we went through every single one that I can remember. Each session. I went through it in detail and hashed it out. And what really helped me with going directly into that was to have this realization. I had several realizations, but I had one major realization that really helped me. And I understood about myself that I had been rather naive. Maybe it was because of my parents or my upbringing or who knows, right? That's why they talk to you about your childhood. But I had this fantasy idea, this fantastic idea, unrealistic idea, and maybe it was fed to me by my parents or by Disney movies, that life was supposed to be safe and there was supposed to be a certain amount of guaranteed equality and upliftment, and that everybody is supposed to have a certain chance. And I know it sounds stupid. Some of you are laughing. Oh, Sky, you're so stupid. I know. But I was rather naive and idealistic. And that naivete and idealism got shattered with each gunshot and with each body on the ground. And rather than understand my flaw in my thinking, that the world is a hard, cold place trying to kill you and your job is to survive it, rather than understand it rationally, I became shell-shocked with this notion of things aren't the way that they're supposed to be. And you get stuck on that. I did. I got stuck on that life isn't the way it's supposed to be. Eric is supposed to still be alive, God rest his soul. And I could go through a whole bunch of other people and say that they're supposed to still be alive. My fucking father is supposed to be here, man. He was murdered by a guy named Little Mike. Only got 4 years in prison for murder. 4 years, that's America. That's your justice that you're so fucking proud of. 4 years for murder. He should have gotten 4,000 years. And the only way I could make sense of all this and to calm down from it was to identify some of these major triggers and these misunderstandings and to try and go back into it and understand it and add more information. Hindsight is 20/20, and to be able to piece together not only the story so it fits a timeline properly so it doesn't stand out as this weird outlier, but to understand my own psyche, to understand what was wrong with me, and to be able to recognize my own thought process and the patterns that I was going through. And this is why you need to go directly into it. And I feel like that if you always beat around the bush with your trauma, and you don't go directly into what hurt you. Maybe you were raped by 7 guys in an alleyway. I had an old girlfriend who that had happened to. Isn't that terrible? It's so terrible. The only way to get over that is to go back into that. You can't block it out. The longer you block it out and avoid it, the longer those triggers exist as obstacles and barriers, the longer that you're going to self-isolate and be tortured by your own mind. It's food for thought.